Ariel, you are in Santiago de Compostela. Can you tell us, is that where you're from in Galicia, or is how long have you been in this beautiful city?
I lived here for 14 years already, but I'm from Ferrol, which is 1 hour north. In Galicia, it's a coastal town, little port, and a place where I breed myself until I was 18. Then I came to Santiago to study at the university, in the old University of Santiago de Compostela. Then I went abroad, then spent some years in England, in Oxford, and then I came back to Galicia. Since 2008, 9, I'm living in Santiago, hopefully for good.
What is it like in that city? It must be, so many people must be coming through all the time.
Yeah, Santiago is historically built upon the legend of the burial site of Saint Jacques, one of the apostles of Jesus Christ. So it's very important for Catholic tradition. And since the 8th century, it's a pilgrimage goal for Catholics. And it's becoming very fashionable since the 1990s, mixing not only the Christian journey, spiritual walk along to arrive in Santiago, but also a touristic route. So now it's full of pilgrims and tourists. But it's also a small city of 90,000 people and a floating population of 20, 25. So it depends on the time of the year. It's all full of students or full of tourists, which I might say now is a process of gentrification also in the old town, with a medieval origin, with a Baroque facade, and very beautiful actually, and it's very comfy, small, easy to live in, with a lot of cultural things going on.
Are there a lot of artists that come through and play shows there? It must be artistically a really creative city.
It is somehow for such a small place, but we always can complain that it should be more like like always. It used to be a place for receiving a lot of people, also musicians. So it's already in the Codex Calixtinus, which is a book kept in the cathedral. It was one of the first touristic guide or travel book written in the 11th century, which already has some music on it and descriptions of how pilgrims brought their songs to the city and shared with another people in their languages.
That's fascinating. So historically, there's been so many people that have come through this town. Well, how did you come to the traditional music of Galicia? Did you grow up with that when you were in the small port town on the coast?
Actually, not. Nobody in my family is a musician, or I don't come from a background, familiar lineage of players. But traditional music has been very, I would say, alive, because actually Galicia was in the northwest of the Iberian Peninsula, surrounded by mountains from the Spanish part, a river to the south bordering with Portugal, and the sea, Atlantic Sea, around. So we were very well connected through boats. And we didn't have, or we had, but it arrived later than any other places, the Industrial Revolution. So with the Industrial Revolution swept over the old rural way of life, which until the 60s, 50s, 60s in Galicia was still pretty much an old way of living. So when the modernization came, it was quite quick, but still there are old ladies remembering songs from the late medieval ages, like romances I sing sometimes. There is still some way of portraying the traditional music into an actual life. Obviously, we don't live in a traditional way. We are an urban society, but with survivals. So those were the ones attract me when I was a teenager in the 90s. At the same time was a big revival of folk music. So like everywhere in the Western world, that started in the 70s, and in the 90s in Galicia was blooming all the bagpipe, the gaita music, all the folk, the Atlantic Celtic folk influenced from Ireland, Scotland, all the Anglo-Saxon culture basically. And we were trying to copy that, and it was a bit of fashionable when I was a teenager, and I liked it. And I don't know why I kept into it. I did a lot of different sorts of music, but I would say that the traditional music is the one that identifies me and the one I want to be identified with.
I love that. So you're saying that the medieval world in medieval culture in Spain is a little closer to the modern world than other parts of Europe because industrialization came really late. That makes sense. I mean, the instrument you're playing is really a medieval instrument. How did you discover the hurdy-gurdy? Because it's not very common in Galicia, right?
No, it's not. I must say that it's more common than in other parts of Europe. Maybe central France, where the tradition was not broken, and is probably, I wouldn't say the national instrument, but a very important instrument for their folklore. Here is basically bagpipe, singing, and tambourine percussion. Tambourine, yeah, the pandeireta, the frame hand percussion, and that's what people had. Close, easy to play, and the instrument with the voices to do the music for the everyday life. And hurdy-gurdy is becoming now a bit more popular, but still, when you open the case of the instrument, people still get surprised. But I might say that after 20 years playing it, now I see a difference because, for instance, there is one day, at least in primary school, they learn about traditional music, and hurdy-gurdy is one of the instruments the kids know. So when I go to play in the schools, they already know what is a sanfona, as we call it. We call it here. So actually, I discovered the sanfona here in Santiago. When I was a student, I discovered I knew before what the instrument was. It was in the 80s. Was already in some folk bands, some singers, but I walk up to or decide that, oh, this is the instrument I want to play when walking down by the cathedral of Santiago de Compostela. There's a place where the bagpipers are playing every day, all day, and people who made the Camino de Santiago know what I mean. And instead of a bagpiper, it was a hurdy-gurdy player, and he was starting playing the instrument. So it was this man who couldn't play very, very well, but after 3 or 4 months he improved and said, "Oh, so that's an instrument that it doesn't seem so difficult, at least to get a nice sound. If in 4 months this guy improved so much." So I think that was when I woke up and discovered, oh, this is an instrument I really would like to play. Also, it's an instrument that you can play indoors. So for living in a flat, as I used to live all my life, it's quite handy to not disturb your family or your housemates or your neighbors, actually. So it's very, very very handy in that sense. And then when I got one, which I had to wait 2 years to get it built by the luthier, then I mean that is my instrument. I played bagpipe before, also harmonica, singing a little bit, but hurdy-gurdy is my thing.
Did it turn out to be as easy as you thought to learn?
Not really, but it's like everything. Like to get skillful with this, it needs time, and it needs rehearsing, practice, and study. but at the same time, it's an instrument which is very easy to get a first nice sound. It's not like the violin or the bagpipe or the trumpet, which you need just to get this sound, a lot of lessons and practice, and that can be sometimes not encouraging for the kids or the musician or the person who wanted to play an instrument. And with a hurdy-gurdy, it's just cranking, getting a vibrating drone, and with that you can spend hours thinking about life.
Well, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people know what a hurdy-gurdy is in theory or have heard the word, but the actual construction of it is pretty marvelous. Can you want to demonstrate? Can you show us some of the pieces and how a
Of,
hurdy-gurdy works? It's a very
of course,
special thing.
I have a very simple one here, and then I will show you like the more sophisticated one. So this one, which I made myself, and basically works like it worked in the 11th century when it was first developed. It's a string instrument. So you have strings. This model has 4 strings. So this is one string here, which is one drum. Then I will play it with the other instrument, and then you will see. Those are 2 more strings, the chanterelle or the melodic string, and this is another drum. So those are the material which is vibrating and gives the sound, which, like in a violin, is transmitted to a bridge. So it's a wooden bridge which rests on a soundboard. All this part is a soundboard. And this is the box, resonating box of the instrument. So all the sound of the instrument gets concentrated there and then projected outside. To get the strings vibration, they need to be in contact with this part, which is the wheel. Now this is transparent because it's made of plexiglass. In the old days it was wood, obviously. So to move the wheel acts as the bow of a violin, of a fiddle, of a cello. So the difference is this is a well, we see half of the wheel, but it's a circle. So it gets a continuous infinite bow, which is quite nice and quite charming for an instrument, because it doesn't stop the sound when you get to the end of the bow, because it doesn't have an end. It's the circle. It's geometry. So this, we cannot see it, but is maybe we see a little bit. There is an axle. So the axle goes inside the instrument. So more or less like from here all the way to here. This is the end of the axle. So this axle is moved, cranked with this manivelle, this crank with the knob. So when I push the crank to one side, the axle moves, and then moves the wheel, and then the string gets in contact with the wheel, and this is moving. So that's like a guitar, a fiddle, or a piano, a stringed instrument. And with my left hand, what I do is I press these keys, and these keys, what they do is they shorten the length of the string. So with this shorter length of the string gets higher notes. So instead, if you have a complete long string of let's say G note, if you press a key, let me see, you see this, the key is connected with what's called tangent, and the tangent touches the string and cuts the vibration of the strings, cuts the length. So if this key with the tangent vibrates from here to here, gets a C note, But if you press this key, which is a D, which is a higher note, you get shorter length, and so with this you articulate the melody. So this is the explanation, but I think it's better, or it will be better explained or understood if I play like this. So this is the teacher time. Now let's do the music time.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So, and then I will explain a bit more tricks on the instrument. So this hurdy-gurdy is a bit more sophisticated, but it's basically the same thing. So it's a sound box, which gives the deepness of the sound, strings, crank, and a wheel and a bridge. So I will put the lowest note, which is a drone. It always gives the same note, which is from here to here, vibrates. This is a C. Someone is interested in, it's a C3, so it's like 69 hertz vibrating, very low. So it's like a C of a cello. So over this drone, I can add a melodic string. So there's the strings which are on top of the wheel, which gives another note. So my right hand cranks turns the wheel with the crank. My left hand articulates the melody on the keyboard with pressing the keys. This is a simple thing, and I'm always turning the wheel, so there's always sound, but I can stop and articulate like if it would be the bow of a violin. So this is the basic thing. I can also plug off, like disengage the drone and play just with one melodic string. For instance, I'm going to unplug all the strings, so I turn, but there's no sound. So I approximate the string to the surface of the wheel, gives the sound. No sound, sound. One string which is now is a G note, a G3. This will be a G4, so an octave up, more is higher. One string on a G, and I'm going to add another string, so it's a G, another G, but an octave below. So there's two strings at the same time. And just melodic strings. I'm going to add another drone. I'm going to add another drone. And I tune with my pegs here. Like a normal instrument. I also have another type of drones, which we call, since the 18th century, trumpet. So the trumpet is another specific type of drone, which is a high drone, and they are on this part of the instrument, closer to the musician. So let's hear the difference of a deep bass drone, which is the one I played before, and a high drone, same note, but 12 octaves up. I'm going to add a fifth, a G, of my trumpets. These strings are made of cut, and they are less stable than the synthetic wired ones. So now I have three drones, 2 trumpets, 1 bass drone. And the funny thing, and this is very unique to the instrument, is to get the resonating effect on a string fret instrument. The strings rest on a bridge, wooden bridge. So the bridge communicates and transfers the sound to the sound box, to the acoustic box. But the trumpet rests on a movable pivotating bridge we call dog, after the French word chien. So this is a bridge with the shape of a horse or of a dog, I don't know, whatever, an animal, and that pivotates. So pivotates. I'm going to do a very close. So goes up and down like that. If I don't follow, if it doesn't follow, and I'm losing my dog. I'm losing my dog. Sorry about it. I have to leash my dog. So well behaved. Oh yeah. Okay. Good. So this is very. So it moves a little bit there, up and down. When I turn faster the crank. So this is unique to the hurdy-gurdy. Just the tromba marina, which is an instrument almost not in use these days, originally from the 13th, 14th century, used in some late medieval music, the tromba marina or trompa marina. So this gives a bass sound if I turn the crank faster. And if I control the buzzing, I can make ostinatos, rhythms, or just dynamics on the music or for the music. And that combined with the melody, let's tune again. So it's a way to have a percussion accompanying the melody. So it's actually a percussive effect, a percussive method to play on a string instrument.
Oh, it's amazing that a medieval instrument could be so technically complicated. It's a really very intricate instrument. I mean, it must have developed a lot, since the 1000s, since the 11th century.
Yes, a lot, but basically it works the same as in the 11th century. we don't have instruments from that age. What we have are sculptures. So for instance, I'm going to show here like one of the first examples of a hurdy-gurdy, which is actually at the gate of the cathedral here in Santiago de Compostela, and is what we call these days an organistrum.
Yeah.
So we see two people holding the instrument. One is cranking, like turning the wheel. That was his job. Quite easy, probably underpaid. And this one was moving the keys and giving the different notes. We don't have surviving instruments of this, just on stone and some drawings from the up to the 13th century. But basically it was the same mechanic. So a crank, an axle, a wooden wheel, strings, and a keyboard. And that hasn't changed since then. Then the addition of the moving bridge was probably, or at least we know since the 15th century, there are already drawings with that dock, that bridge. And then in the 18th century in France, that's where the big development of the instrument happened. And what we play now is basically this Baroque instrument made in France, and it's actually a model very close to the instrument you have on your back, on your left side.
Yeah, I have a hurdy-gurdy too.
So that Vieux la Roue, that was the name in French. That's a modern one.
Yeah, this is
but basically the Baroque,
here.
The Baroque, and we see like the typical characteristics of the Baroque instrument, which is a lute body sound box.
Sound like a lute, yeah.
And then we see also the head is carved, and that's actually something that another person used to make, not the luthier. There was a specific sculptures making the peg head. And then we have, now that is covered with what we call wheel cover, which is a removable part.
Yeah.
We used to protect, cover. Yes, so it protects from rain, dust.
The wheel, you have to rosin the wheel. I mean, there are some very unusual parts of a hurdy-gurdy you don't see very often. One is that this is just straight wood rubbing against a string. I only know of one other culture in Korea, classical Korean music. There's an instrument that's just a rosin stick that they draw across some strings on an instrument. That's the only other culture I know. Every other culture uses horsehair for the bow when it comes in contact with the string. So that's rare. And then the idea that every instrument we think of in Western music, you push down on a string. In this way, you're pushing it over. Each of these little ones pushes the string over. And that exists in the sarangi in India. When you play the sarangi, you push the strings over with your fingernails, which makes it very, very hard. And the gadulka in Eastern Europe is the same. So some of these ideas you find elsewhere in the world, but it's still pretty rare. This is a very unusual idea for an instrument. So, I mean, I don't know of any instrument that has a wheel that is a part of it. Do you?
I don't know. I really, as I am aware, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Or at least it hasn't been used. It has a lot of similarities in concept, not obviously in organology with the organ. The old organ in the churches were played by two people. One pumping the air to give the wind. For the tubes, and another person playing, like the organistrum. It was a keyboard instrument. It was related to the church music, so sacred music, and also popular, used in the 12th, 13th century. So yeah, it's very unique, very mechanical instrument, also very noisy in terms of the key noises.
Yeah.
The as you said, the solid bow, so the wheel being solid, doesn't allow attack on the strings. So there's all constant pressure on the strings, and that makes it different from other instruments with bow. With just the speed of the turning gives the volume, more volume or less volume if you go slower.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. To think of the crank is basically like the bow, and there's so much movement in the wrist and the hand and the buzzing. It's an amazing thing. There's a question from the audience. Are there technical or stylistic differences in the way people play the hurdy-gurdy in different cultures? Maybe you could just talk about how the hurdy-gurdy is played in Galician music. What makes Galician hurdy-gurdy playing different than, French or Russian?
Yeah, we find hurdy-gurdies traditionally, or at least in the documentation, almost all over Europe. As you said, from Russia, Ukraine, actually Galicia, but the Ukrainian, Belarus, Polish Galicia, to the Iberian Galicia, Germany, France, Hungary, north of Italy, and basically it used to be an instrument since medieval times, used for singing alone. So it was an accompaniment for singing. Different fashions or different repertoires, usually played by one person and played in the streets. Blind people all over Europe were allowed and were typically the players of the instruments, and also in Galicia. What happened in Galicia is the last blind people playing the hurdy-gurdy died later than in other parts of Europe. So just Ukraine and Galicia had the last blind players who died here in the 20s. In Ukraine it was in the 30s. Killed by Stalin, actually. That's a very, very interesting story. And this is, I'm going to show a picture of a traditional Galician sanfona. This from 19th century. So we see it's a guitar shaped and crank with a wheel and keys, and the peg is different. The pegs of the peg head is different, but basically it's the same thing. And it was very, not very, but simpler instrument than these new Baroque contemporary instruments, and played for singing, stories, and some dances. So, but no, it was not the main instrument for dancing. That was bagpipe and singing and percussion in the Galician tradition. We have from some documents that some players also played some tunes. Actually, it was the instrument for playing at the parties and at the festas, romarias. There's when the gathering people around the patron saint of somewhere, and they usually ask for money. So the people playing the hurdy-gurdy traditionally were professionals. So actually, they were the only popular musicians getting money from playing the instruments. In the traditional music follows the function socially of harvesting or partying or playing for dancing, but for fun. But they were performing for money. And in Galicia, up to the 20s, when the last blind people died, that was the repertoire. Since the 70s, we take the instrument and played in folk bands. So we played for dancing, and we adapt. That's the point. We adapt for playing chotas, muineiras, schottisches, waltzes, polkas, mazurkas, as the one I was playing earlier. And actually, that's usually what people do in different parts of Europe. So they play bourrées in France, they play andros in Brittany, and they also sing with instruments. So they are very good players, singers doing the instruments. And there's now a very good fashion on this new pagan folk movement. So they are playing the hurdy-gurdy with dressed up like new medieval pagan musicians on a stage, big stages, lights, and a big show with hurdy-gurdys, and it's becoming not very popular, but it's getting to a new audience, and there are players and TikTokers and influencers with instruments. It's very interesting movement. What is going on now.
Yeah, the pagan folk they've also brought back the organistrum. The organistrum is a huge instrument. That's the original hurdy-gurdy that you showed the picture of, where one person cranks and one person fingers it. So I've seen some of the pagan folk people have brought that back. So could you play a traditional Galician tune that would be from the hurdy-gurdy repertoire, just so we can hear what it would sound like with some of the ornaments you would have?
So the ornamentation in traditional music, and that's universal, not only from a Galician point of view, follows what the voice does. So each instrument adapts to their technique, with their technique, to what the voice inflections of also the language influences that, and then adapts also to the rhythm. It's not the same the music that you are doing for just for listening than for dancing, which has to be very strict on rhythm and that. What I'm going to can play is just a melody, and actually I will not sing, just play the melody, because I will do just the melody of what the singer would do, of an alala, which we can understand it as a Galician air, a very slow, not rhythmical song, very, very slow, very melismatic. I'm going to play the same thing, but not the same. I was improvising, so not the same thing, obviously, with 2 strings and 1 drum, but in the same mode. So these sort of modes very typical from the archaic repertoire. So we see it's not like minor or major. It's sort of this. People would say Arabic-ish, arabesque thing. Nothing to do with that. I mean, it's just a universal way of playing old music, not related with tonal music, which is very European and strict. And something that I didn't say before, this resonating sound, which is floating on the air, is because we had this, what we call sympathetic strings. This is an 18th century invention. So this almost invisible strings which are on the side of the instrument resonate by sympathy. So resonates if I give let's say a note, whatever, which is tuned also with a string here.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can hear it well, but it stays there the same pitch. But if I do a note which I don't have tuned with any of my sympathetic strings, for instance, this one, there's no resonating string. So this is a E flat. I don't have any E flat here, but I have a D.
Wow. Yeah.
And this gives like reverb, like an old acoustic reverb of the instrument. So I have here a set of like C's and G's and E's, and here I have the same in D, E's. You usually don't plug it; you just leave them there resonate. But you can do a lot of music with just plugging them. Like modern techniques, you can do a lot of things with the hurdy-gurdy, and it actually can be used as an instrument for making film music. It's as we like to call it, it's like a medieval synthesizer.
I was going to ask you that you've developed a lot of modern techniques for the hurdy-gurdy. You've done stuff that I've never heard on the instrument before. What are some of the ideas you've come up with to change the sound of the hurdy or bring it into new areas?
Yeah, I discovered a lot of these things with the free improvisation scene here in Santiago de Compostela 15 years ago, when I joined people for free improvising music, which is under some rules, do whatever you want, but don't make music as you think music is in terms of rhythm, melody, harmony, and that sort of things. Look for the boundaries of the instrument. Don't think the instruments as something you already know, but something that you have to discover. So just exploring, you end up with a lot of accidental noises, which you learn to control and make music with it. So and this is not only about a hurdy-gurdy, but any kind of instrument since the beginning of the times making music. I think all musicians have made it, but probably Western culture tried to control that. But if you see a lot of the traditional musicians, they like hard, harsh noises on the instrument because it's a bit more sexy at some point. Is taking this to an extreme. So you end up developing what is called extended techniques. So sort of like glissandos, pizzicatos, click sounds. So there are a lot of accidental noises, which are noises, but you control and you make music with it. And the instrument is the hurdy-gurdy is very cool instrument for that. And you make it acoustic. You don't need to process it, which you can do also. But the cool thing with this is that you don't need electricity to do the show.
I like that. Yeah, it's true. I just thought of it the kind of standard way. I hadn't thought about all the ways you could pluck and move the other notes, And then it's true, you can put it through digital. I've heard of plenty of hurdy-gurdy players that put it through digital loops, and there's a lot that can be done. Have you experimented with electronics in the hurdy-gurdy a lot?
I used to, but I stopped for two reasons. First, because you have to take a lot of gear with you. You have to spend also money, and then there's always the hum noise, a noise of electricity. So in your case, maybe 50 hertz. In our case, in Europe, 60. So there's always a hum there, which amplifies if you plug more things. and I just use a loop station to record myself and and play over it. But actually, I discover, and this is the second reason, that the hurdy-gurdy already is a synthesized sound, and you don't need to make a processed sound with the hurdy-gurdy. But because for that you have MIDI keyboards, and you have a lot of other instruments which make much better and comfortable effects. But actually, the guy who really developed this to the next level is Valentin Clastre, which is a French player. Now is in his 70s and is still 10 years ahead of everybody in terms of concept and technique. And he modernized the hurdy-gurdy since the 80s. A guy who didn't come from the traditional music, but developed his own contemporary music. And Valentin Clastre is the guy who still illuminate us. So I really have to say his name because he's God for us.
Well, we got about 10 minutes or so left. Let's check in with the audience. There were a couple questions that came in. Catalina says, sounds very Arabic. She was talking about that melody you played that sounded really Arabic. I agree. There must be ties to Arabic modes because, Spain and...
It's a coincidence. I mean, yeah, it's a coincidence. I mean, we call it Arabic because we hear it in films and we have that stereotype. But it's really a cultural construction. Yeah, I mean, music is crossed over and with the styles, and there is no music from one place different from another one. Maybe is this music influenced more from other musics and developing their own way, but everything is connected. Everything is connected, especially traditional music, which that's what means traditional music. It's not something static, but it's something that evolves. Tradere, that's the root of the word. Tradition is tradere in Latin, so it's take from here to there. And that's tradition. So there's not conservative, it's evolutionary. So it's present, and we made it present. We call it tradition as a romantic, nationalistic thing, but then we identify with, French music, Irish music, Acadian music. But then you listen to an Irish guy like 60 years ago and maybe plays like more Acadian than an Acadian. So it's fun. We have a lot of stereotypes on that. But yeah, it's the same sort of mode that some Arabic modes.
Well, another question was, if you could collaborate with other artists from any genre, who or what types of music would they be?
Myself. I don't know. I think I really would like to play punk again, like with Inflatable Buddha, as Bree saying in the beginning. Like because you with the hurdy-gurdy, we played a lot of traditional music, very related to the drum, and to very functional music for dancing and for playing for dancers. But I think the rock and roll and punk and that. It's not musically that I'm very interested in that, but the attitude of rock music and punk music is very, very interesting.
Are there punk rock hurdy-gurdy players? There must be.
That must be. Actually, there used to be I forgot, there's a Japanese project in the 90s. I forgot the name, but there is like very, very, very loud music. Actually, if you hear to Hedningarna, which is a traditional band,
great band,
Swedish band with some Finnish singers. They play traditional music, but that's something else. They amplified and electrified very old type of traditional instruments. Man, that is much better than rock and roll.
I agree with you there. That's pretty good stuff. RT wanted to mention, can you please mention you can find lots of Galician music and Zamfon music on YouTube and the iTunes store, CDs from various groups. Maybe you could recommend a few artists and groups if people want to learn more about Galician music. Who would be some classic folks to listen to?
Yeah, that's funny because if you check YouTube and the algorithm will always show you sometimes some cheesy stuff. So I really don't know, but I mean the folk classics, with which also had hurdy-gurdy, the fathers of the folk Celtic music, Milhadoiro with double L. It's a band I mean, you have to understand folk music in Galicia. You cannot without knowing Milhadoiro. These days, for instance, Ayla with a hurdy-gurdy young player is doing very nice music. Xavier Diaz and the Feiras de Salitre. Those bands you can find them online. They also have a hurdy-gurdy. Then they're like a bunch of 8, 9 girls singing with a front singer. Any pandereteira music, so tambourine singers, that's the hardcore. That's the real thing. It depends who plays. Can be better than Leilia is probably one of the founders of this big, now very well respected movement. Tanxugueiras is a band of 3 girls mixing with electronics and root music, like all the style pandereteira thing. Boba with B, Boba is the 4 girls which I really like. One of them plays with me in this project, Tralovalo, and we have some videos there, tambourine, hurdy-gurdy, singing. And yeah, I think as audiences are taking an email later, we can send some information. And also, actually, the guy who asked this, RT, made a very nice compilation on Galician music for hurdy-gurdy.
Well, maybe we can send that out to folks so we can hear other artists as well. Another question was, where and how did you find your first instrument? You said you had to wait 2 years for it. Who was the maker?
Yeah, that was 20 years ago, 25, and still is an issue. There are more people wanting to play the hurdy-gurdy than instruments available. These days, Facebook and the marketplace is where you find second-hand instruments, or you have to wait 2, 3, or 5 years in a waiting list for a luthier to make one for you. So my first one was made in Sarria by Sherman Arias, a Galician maker who doesn't make hurdy-gurdys anymore, but violins. And then my second one was Jesus Reolit from Madrid in Spain. And my third one was this one made by Wolfgang Weichselbaumer in Austria, which is for me the top one of the top luthiers and the one who developed this modern sort of instrument mixing with an acoustic deep sound, which a lot of luthiers now are copying. And this is my fourth instrument, which I made myself with my colleague Suso Gestal, and this is made with laser cut plywood and some printing plastic, 3D printed plastic pieces, which we are developing this project for cheap hurdy-gurdys for beginners, which is another issue of the hurdy-gurdy. They are not cheap, but they're expensive. Yeah. There's no hurdy-gurdys for less than $1,000 or euros. So it's difficult to get children to play a hurdy-gurdy. And that means that the future is secured, but slowly.
Geert says, I bought my first instrument in Lisboa, Portugal from Eduardo Gomes Montero. It's a kerbuff. I love it.
I know that instrument. Yeah, I know that guy. Yeah.
It's not a question. She just wanted to let you know, or they want to let you know. Yeah, hurdy-gurdy players like to talk about their instruments. They're even worse than accordion players, I found. But the instruments are so complicated. So did you say you have 4 hurdy-gurdys?
No, I had in my life 4 hurdy-gurdys. Okay. I just own one, and I want to keep it like that because keep the instrument in shape, set up, like ready to play. Takes time, and it's part of the instrument. You have to and you have to have the patience to do that with the instrument. Otherwise, you better play the accordion. And so basically, I have just one instrument now. I used to have 2, and when I bought an instrument, a new instrument. I sold the old one, so I don't. With that money, I paid part of the new one. And I know that there are a lot of people who like to collect instruments and have to have them close to them, but not for me. One instrument for everything, and I just do different réglage for different repertoires, but one which works and works well, and it's already a lot of work. So yeah, you have to spend a lot of time setting, and you have to know how to do it. You can take it to the luthier for major repairs, but it's not only about changing the cotton, roasting the wheel, but also what happened with the sticky key or with that noise, which you have to identify the noises to know how to correct them, minimize them, or play with them, or live with them, which is also sometimes a compromise you have to have, and there's no escape.
Yeah, it's true. You have to kind of deal with every single part. I've been messing with all the little tangents to make sure every note's just in and out of tune, just right. It's definitely a large. I mean, you were talking, a medieval technology. Even at the highest level now, it's still a medieval technology. So it's wood and old pieces of mechanics that you're trying to put together.
Absolutely.
Well, if people wanted to hear more of your music, what albums would you recommend? I've been listening to your albums, and they're all quite different, each from the other.
Yeah, my albums. Well, I have. Are they asking for another artist or my albums?
For you, yeah.
I think my first album is my favorite one, which was the soundtrack of a contemporary dance piece we did 12 years ago, and it's basically with hurdy-gurdy. And it was made to play live with the dancers, and it's called Abelas with H. Abelas. Abelas is part of an expression in Galician which is Abela Sainas, so it's a bit the piece and the music talks about the witches and what a witch is in our culture as a woman forbidden to take part in the normal society. And that Abelas with very simple music, but I'm really proud of that. My list, then I went to a very dark part of like music with a lot of free improvisation, a lot of recorded about with that, but not published much. Then I have this project with my Portuguese partner Cesar Prata, and we have one album about the songs of the blind in Galicia and Portugal. So it's traditional repertoire sung by these blind people. So it's all repertoire who was all recorded or more usual in books in the 19th century. We did a special repertoire for Christmas with a Portuguese singer. So that is Cantos de Natal da Galicia and Portugal, so Christmas carols from Galicia and Portugal. And I'm very proud also with this band, which now we are a bit quiet, but we are not disappeared, which is Ulobit. We did Ulobit, we are a trio, so it's hurdy-gurdy, processed through pure data, free software to manipulate sound, and also with visuals. So we have this work, Viking Land, which is the name of a ship, and we took images from an old film, and manipulate in real time, and it sounds very ethereal, and every gig was different, and the album was very interesting. I'm quite fond of it, and I think I have a lot of things yet to be recorded.
I like the Ulobit album because you can buy a USB stick in a sardine can.
Yeah, because it was
like
the Viking Land. It was the name of the ship. So actually, I have it somewhere. So actually, I have it here. Let me grab it.
Sure. Yeah, I thought it was funny.
Yeah. So, oops. Sorry about this. So this is actually that's the last one. We sold out. We made just 100 copies of this. So
Yeah, it's a little
So,
like a
yeah.
can of fish almost.
So we have this very 80s thing. I don't know. Let's see.
Oh,
Like
cool. That's awesome.
so this is eight pictures of the film, and this is the guy, and on the Viking land this. So and then it has the tin, and then here is the USB.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's the USB. So with this. There's where the videos and the music and the WAV files and posters and images. So yeah. Yeah, all of
So
it.
we do one last question. We probably should close out. Thank you so much for your time. But what can people expect when you have your show coming up in October with Faltriqueira? Faltriqueira is a all-female singing group. Are you going to accompany them, or are you just kind of doing your own set?
Yeah, we play in Boston 19th September, 5th in Philadelphia, and 6th at the DROM in Manhattan, New York. That was the invitation by the World Music Institute. And with Faltriqueira, which is a female tambourine, all the style singing, but with a twist. They started 20 years ago, and they made very interesting music, all based on traditional oral traditions. And we will do two sets. So one will be hurdy-gurdy, my stuff, traditional music from Galicia to the American audience. We will play together some tunes, and then they will do their show, and at the end probably they will be playing together. There is an accordion player coming with them too, and I think it's going to be very interesting for people because they are very fresh and lively, and I think we are going to enjoy playing together. But they will be like one concert with two differentiated sets, and then we will be close together to make something special for these gigs.
Well, thank you. Do you want to? We can close out with a little bit of music, maybe something folks would hear from you in person on your East Coast tour coming up.
Yep, I will play. I think there's, let's see, some short. It's a non-composition, but I think at this time of the day, of the night for me, it's more. It's 1 o'clock here. I'm going to play this. So it's just a very simple melody, but I will play. Hopefully, you can hear the pizzicatos, the pizzicati. Because I'm going to play a melody and accompany myself without the drones in terms of continuous sound, but the drones I will use them with a pizzicato. So pluck the strings, and it's called par.